Welcome back, guys. In this lecture, we are going to set up our brand style guide. We are going to create the entire structure of it, have every single page that we need in our new document, in our own brand style guide. In the previous lecture, we selected 3 different brand style guide. To be honest, this one in the middle here was not so inspiring, but the 2 other ones here, this one and this one, were pretty inspiring. So what I'm going to do is from the Canva homepage, I'm going to start a blank presentation. Okay, and this is the document where we are going to work. So my goal for this lecture is to create the entire backbone, the entire structure of my brand style guide. I'm not going to worry about the styling of it or even the content of it, just the pages that I believe will be important for my brand style guide. So let's get going, and you will see that copying and pasting pages from other templates is something fairly easy in Canva. So just make sure you have your different tabs open. Okay, so it's just like different tabs in my browser. You don't see them here because I'm recording only the lower part of my screen, but here on top I have my URL bar and my browser tabs. So yeah, just have your different tabs open with your different documents. So this will help you. This is the blank page, and this is where we are going to start. So starting from this one and this one. I think this one is actually the most appropriate one, the one that is closest to what I'm trying to design with my brand style guide. So I will click, you see on the thumbnail right here, on this lower part of the screen. You might not have that bar. Yours might look like so. So if this is the case, what you need to do is to click on the little arrow right here that says show pages. So you want to see your pages here at the bottom of your presentation, okay? So click on the first tile right here, the first page that you are interested in copying. So I'm going to Command C or Control C on Windows to copy this slide. So I have Command C this. So I'm going to go back to my blank document, and with the first slide selected, Command V. And you see my page is pasted here. The first one right here, I can delete it. I have my cover page for my brand style guide. All right, let's continue exploring a table of content. This is definitely something I will need. Let's have a look at the other one, how it's made. Okay, this is good too. I'm gonna actually grab this one. So this time, Command C on slide number 2 here, coming back to mine, and I will position myself on the first slide. If I click here, it's just gonna create a new slide, and then if I paste, I will still have my blank slide here. So really creating a new page before pasting is not the way to go. It's better, and here I'm just gonna select the blank slide and delete, so the delete key on my keyboard. So really the way to go is simply to select the previous slide and Command V to paste. You see, and it pastes it right after. So, okay, now just delete this one because we have duplicate slides. So I have my cover, my table of content. Let's continue exploring these other documents. So the third page is actually kind of like a company's short history. This is interesting. Let me see. This page, yep, not so interested. This one either. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this one right here. I think it's good before we start the brand style guide to have a little bit of context of how everything started. So here the company history could be the appropriate section for that. And you see on the other deck, it says how we started. So I want to keep that. I think this is a great idea. So I'm going to copy this one. The structure of this slide right here is actually more appropriate than the other one, but I like the other title. You start to see how mixing and matching different templates is actually useful, and having more than one actually gives you more ideas. So highly recommended that you have 2, maybe 3 documents open when you're mixing and matching your templates. Okay, so copying slide number 3 here, Command C. Heading back to my presentation with slide 2 selected, Command V. Boom, I have this, but I like the other title, how it all started. Just gonna copy this here and type this in. I know we're not really molding the content yet, but it's just to remember the idea for later. Okay, if I continue looking at everything here, I have kind of like a food for thought. It's kind of like a quote about the company, which could be interesting having something like that, like an inspirational quote. I don't see anything similar in the other deck. So let's copy page 4 and bring it to our current project here. All right, so I'm gonna make sure I am on slide number 3, Command V, and paste my page here. So this is good. What I'm going to do at this stage, I think you kind of get the point, get the idea of what I'm doing here. I'm just looking at my 2 template documents here and bringing over the pages that I believe will be important for my brand style guide. Continue doing so, but I'm going to speed up the video because you don't need to see every single page. At the end, we will end up with close to 15, 20 pages. So it's going to be pretty repetitive. So I'm going to do that, speed up the video, and I will see you there in a couple of seconds. Okay, and we are back. So I just finished copying the pages that I found interesting in this document. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to switch over to grid view right here with this little icon right here that says grid view. So I'm going to present the 16 pages that I selected. And then before we wrap up the lecture, what we will be doing is to update our table of content right here. So we have all the items in this table of content. We might not add the page numbers yet, because this will probably change as we go building our brand style guide, but at least I will have all the sections of this table of content kind of appropriately listed in my table of content. So the first slide is going to be my cover. The second one is going to be a table of content. Then we will have a little, like a brief history of how Fairtrade Connection actually started, okay? So next, with slide number 4 right here, I want to use this slide to show a quote that explains the essence of what we do with Fairtrade Connection and have a visual. I want this brand style guide to be highly visual anyway. So this is kind of what I tried to do by selecting these 2 different templates. You can see already it's quite visual, but I wanted to have like a lot of photos of what we do, because with Fairtrade Connection, we actually create photography and video. So there is a lot of images involved with this project. And I want this to show, I want this to be represented in our brand style guide. So I like this slide number 4 because it has a large visual on the right side and then a nice big quote. So we'll do that. Then we have reminder for our brand. So this slide, let me show you full screen. This slide I found pretty interesting. So what this is kind of like our brand in a nutshell, or our brand style guide in a nutshell. So what I will do, I will change the title here, our brand in a nutshell, meaning like at one glance, like what can we see? And I want this page to be kind of like a summary of the entire brand style guide. So it needs to have all the colors, needs to have my fonts, it needs to have my logos. So we'll see how we can tweak this deeper, further. So we will see how we can tweak this page further so that it could be used maybe as a standalone document, just one page, that's all I need. But obviously I wanted the brand style guide to be much more complete than one page. But yes, I think this page is a good one to have as a summary. Okay, back to our grid view here. The next page is basically our mission and vision. If I go bigger, it says the vision, the mission, the objectives. Maybe we don't need the objectives, but definitely mission and vision. So this is something that we will keep like so. Let's go back to grid view. I like the grid view because it gives me this nice overview of everything. Next we have our values. I like how it's presented here. 4 different values with a little explanation of what they are, like that. Next we have this slide right here, slide number 8, which is kind of like teasing that we are moving into a different part of the document. We are actually starting the main branding guidelines on the main visual guidelines. We talk about the logo, the color palette, your typography, and your imagery style. And I think there is one more thing we need to add here is the tone of voice. So we have pretty much everything, but we still need the tone of voice. So I'm going to create one more page, and I'm going to bring in a title here, like this one, for example, paste this here, and just for now, I'm just going to say tone of voice. I'm creating this slide here just to remember we also need to have a tone of voice in our brand style guide. All right, good. Back to grid view, and let's wrap up this overview of the entire deck here. So slide number 8, we are getting into the nitty-gritty, the main visual guidelines or branding guidelines. The first one is the logo. Okay, so our logo today, I feel like this is a nice way of presenting it. Then we have kind of like the logo evolutions. So we can see here 2 different versions of the logo. It started like this, 2015, and then it got to this. And I selected this slide because this is actually what happens with our Fairtrade Connection logo. We used to have an old logo, and we went through a logo redesign. So that's why I wanted to have this slide to explain, to showcase this evolution of our logo. So I kept that. Next, we have the logo variations. So this is where I will be explaining how to use the logo in vertical mode, in horizontal mode, and the logo as just the icon or the visual, because we have all of these treatments, all of these variations of our logo. So I feel this is a really good page to have. A logo do's and don'ts. So some examples of what not to do with your logo. This is also super important, because a lot of times people who will be using our logos might not be graphic designers, and therefore we need to kind of prevent a few classic mistakes, I would say, that they might be tempted to do with the logo while using the logo. Next, we have the color scheme or the color palette. I don't like the word scheme, color palette. Yep, so the main one, we will probably have to add a second page here with our secondary colors. So I'm just gonna add a page for now. Let's see what we will have on this page. Then we have our typography, font and text. Yep, not so fond of this one, so typography would do it, typography. Yep, I have 2 pages here for typography from the 2 different decks because I kind of like them both. So maybe there's something to be worked out here. I didn't know which one to select, so I brought them both over to my document. It's always good to have more choice than not enough. And then we have imagery. So proper imagery, which is good. So maybe not proper, but let's just say imagery for now. And we'll see how we tweak this. And then we'll have our tone of voice. So I feel like there might be a couple of pages added here and there, but this is kind of like the main structure of what I want in my final brand style guide. Okay, so now that we have a good idea of all the different sections in our brand style guide, I will wrap up the lecture by updating my table of content based on everything I've seen here. All right, so the first section is actually going to be the company's history. So it's here. I'm just going to dump the introduction. I don't think we need an introduction at this stage. Okay, so I'm just going to start at history. Second one, brand overview. Yes, let's keep that. The third one is going to be mission and vision. So mission and vision is going to be this slide right here, slide number 6. As I said before, I'm not going to fill up the page numbers here because this is probably going to change and I will have to do it again later. So let's just leave it like so, and I will tweak that later. Next, we have our values. So not logo anatomy, not logo and description, but the fourth section here should be our core values. Then we have the logo. So let's dump anatomy, don't like this word. Our logo, let's call it our logo. Our logo, good. Then we have proper logo use. Yes, let's keep that. So that will be this slide right here. Next, we have our color palette. Yes, color palette is good here. After the color palette, we should have our typography. So not image direction. I feel like here we need something else. Typography, like so. Typography, yep. Then we have image direction. Yes, but I don't like the word direction. Imagery style, I would prefer imagery style. And then to wrap up, we have our tone of voice. All right, I feel like we have made some massive progress on our brand style guide. We now have the entire skeleton, we have all the sections, and we have updated the table of content. In the next lecture, I'm going to start pouring in some content to actually change this text, this dummy text right now in the presentation for our real life information of Fairtrade Connection. Obviously, you will follow along and you will have watched section 4 of this course to figure out that information, okay? So that is super important. You need to figure it out first. If you've not figured it out yet, go back to section 4 and pen and paper and figure it out, okay? This is super important. You need that information before pouring it in to your brand style guide. So I will see you in the next lecture.